Today on Mighty Car Mods, will painting your intercooler black make your car go faster, or will it make your car go slower? Today we find out on Mighty Car Mods. Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods, proudly supported by Just Car Insurance. Now today, the age-old question since the birth of the wheel. Everyone's been wondering, if I paint my intercooler black, will my car be faster? Will it go slower?
We've installed many intercoolers over the years, most of them big shiny things like this. The role of the intercooler is to cool the hot air that's compressed by the turbo, which means delivery of more oxygen to the engine for combustion. But is it possible that the colour of your intercooler can impact on how efficient it is? The science suggests that this could be the case. Emissivity is the ability of an object to emit energy by radiation, and black objects have unique emissive characteristics. So today we're going to see if painting your intercooler black can make it perform better than leaving it shiny.
We have with us today an expert. This is Mouseworks from the Mighty Car Mods forum. We call him our, what do we call him, Marty?
We call him an electronical stig.
He's our electronical stig, but actually he's a mechatronics
engineer.
A mechatronics engineer. So he knows about this stuff. Quick tip for everyone, hang out with people smarter than you and the world becomes a better place. What is the plan for today, Mouseworks? How are we going to test this, what do we call this? A theory? Not a theory, what do you call it in scientific terms?
Conjecture and hearsay.
Just gonna see if it works.
A hypothesis?
Sure. Yeah, hypothesis.
Alright, run.
I feel so sciencey, man.
Well, this is backyard science, people. This is awesome. And at the end of this video, we'll know whether we should be painting our intercoolers black or not. Is that right?
Yeah.
Alright, can you run me through the setup that we have over here?
So we've got the hairdryer there.
Which is from Marty's MX-5, of course.
Yeah, I think it comes in the toolkit. That simulates the turbo, which, you know, the hot air flowing through the intercooler, and then we measure the temperature at the input and the output to see how much of a temperature drop we get across it.
First of all, what we'll do is we'll put the hairdryer on and then get this whole thing up to a stable temperature. And then as a control, we'll be looking at the intake temperatures and then looking at the temperatures on the other side of the intercooler and looking at that difference, taking a note of that, then painting the whole thing black and doing the same test and seeing whether that has made it better or worse in terms of its efficiency.
I've got a microcontroller here with, I've got 4 thermistors set up, and they're just temperature measurement devices. And that's going to MATLAB on my laptop.
Now, before we kick this off, can you give me some insight in what do you think is going to happen before we start? Do you think the black intercooler is going to run cooler, therefore more power, faster car? Or do you think we're going to get the opposite? What do you think is going to happen?
The science says that it should run cooler black, but we also have a trade-off that when we apply a layer of paint to here, it might have an insulating effect. So we have to see whether or not that's actually...
Whether that negates the efficacy of the more emissive black colour.
Right.
I'm excited by science, people, and you're coming with us live. Mouseworks, myself, Martin, let's go take one for science.
The blow dryer goes on and we've got an intake temperature of 134 degrees Celsius.
It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So we're going to heat soak it, because that probably closely most represents how it's going to be when it's under the bonnet. And then we start seeing what the difference is, and then we paint it black. So here you can see the temperature on the intake side of the intercooler, which is currently 136 degrees. On the output side, we can see that it's 62 degrees. So you can see that that's how much the intercooler is cooling the air currently. So if we look at the middle, that's currently a difference of around 65 degrees. So once this is heat soaked, then we can let the experiments begin.
We need to fully heat soak the intercooler before we can get an accurate result, which we'll be monitoring with some custom-made software on Mouseworks' laptop.
Okay, so the intercooler is heat soaked now, and we can see that because the lines on the graph are steady. The temperatures are not changing anymore. Now the difference between the intake temperature and the outlet is sitting at a stable 38 degrees. So that is the difference. That is showing how efficient the intercooler is in cooling down the hot air. Now remember, that is without airflow, but that is going to be the number to beat once the intercooler is black. We want to try and get a bigger difference than 38 degrees.
The next step now is to see the difference when we put airflow through it, right? And then we're going to paint it black.
Right, but what first we need to do is figure out what difference the black paint alone makes.
Without any flow.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter whether there's airflow or not. Painting it black is changing the emissivity, which is it's a measure of how much radiation it can either absorb or release.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with airflow.
Before we paint it black, we're running the experiment again, this time with airflow courtesy of a car fan from a charged battery for constant voltage. We're heat soaking the intercooler again, and after checking the stats, we've got a difference between intake and outlet temperatures of 100 degrees.
Okay, so we've just finished our first clinical trial on humans to designate the efficacy of our hypothesis.
I have a cable tie.
Okay, good. Now, these are the results that we've got. With no fan running, the difference of temperature we got was 38 degrees, and with the fan running, the difference we got was 100 degrees. So the next step is to paint it black and see if those numbers drop. But you've also worked out a mean result as well, is that right?
Yes, so we've got 4 temperature probes on there, one at the intercooler inlet, another at the outlet, and then we also have one in front of and behind to measure the temperature difference across it in that direction. And by taking a logarithmic mean of all 4 of those numbers, we can get a value for the mean temperature difference, which is a measure of the effectiveness of the cooler itself. And for that, we got 48.2 degrees on this test.
So we're looking for a smaller number. If we paint it black and it works better, we're looking for a smaller number?
Yes, so hopefully we'll get something smaller than that. Yeah.
And if we don't, then it means that the black is potentially adding an extra layer of insulation, therefore defeating its efficacy.
We're using an etch primer to ensure we get proper adhesion of the black paint to the surface of the core, which is aluminium. Now we're using matte black paint to spray the intercooler black. We're using an innovative backyard technique to make sure we get as much paint as possible between the fins of the intercooler.
So the intercooler is now painted black, which means we can run the experiments again and see if there is a change due to its emissivity.
We've waited for the paint to fully dry, and now we're setting up to run the next experiment. With the blow dryer plugged in, now we're going to heat soak the intercooler again. The temperatures continue to climb until it's fully heat soaked, at which point we check the temperatures and the results are unbelievable.
We've just finished our first test with the intercooler painted black, and I think we can agree the results are nothing short of staggering. So when we did our first test when the intercooler was silver, we had a difference between the intake and the outlet temperature of 38 degrees. With it painted black, we've now got a difference of 77 degrees. That means the temperature coming out of the outlet here has dropped by 40 degrees, which is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Which is a massive difference. I mean, that's not necessarily meaning it's doubled its efficiency though.
No, it's not twice as efficient because you've seen double the difference. It doesn't work that way with a Celsius, but I think you probably would feel that difference in the car. It's pretty significant.
Now we're going to run the test again, but this time with airflow to see what kind of results we get.
I think at the moment we're all finding it a little bit hard to believe there is such a difference, blowing our brains.
With airflow, we've got a difference of 97 degrees, which is a negligible improvement. With all of the figures tallied up, these are the final results. With airflow, the silver intercooler had a difference between the inlet and outlet temperatures of 100 degrees, and the black intercooler had a difference of 97 degrees. Without airflow, the silver intercooler had a difference of 38 degrees, and the black intercooler had a difference of 77 degrees. This means the outlet temperatures of the black intercooler were almost 40 degrees colder than the exact same intercooler without the black paint.
I'm astonished.
Pretty good result.
Is there... I'm just going to ask the question that I think everyone wants to know. All aesthetics aside, is there anything negative associated with having it black? We've seen a better mean, we've seen better output temperatures, we've seen a bigger difference. Do you see any downside to doing it?
Emissivity works both ways, so it'll absorb radiation easier when it's black, just like it emits it better when it's black. But unless you have your intercooler mounted in the sunlight, so it's not set back under the bumper where you're not actually going to get any direct sunlight, I don't think that's the only downside that I could think of to doing that, other than, you know, it not being silver and shiny anymore.
And I'm sorry, but that's a big thing for me.
I know. But that's why you're disappointed, isn't it, Marty? Because I see you're a little bit sad because you want the shiny intercooler, but you now realise that based on these findings in our very scientific lab,
Black actually is better.
And the black didn't make any difference with airflow. We still got the same differential across it when there is air flowing, which backs up the theory of it being radiation only. So the amount of heat that's lost to radiation is probably insignificant compared to the amount of heat that's lost to convection and conduction to the air flowing through it. But where you would see a benefit from that is when you're sitting at a stoplight or in heavy traffic. You're not going to get that intercooler heat soaking from hot air blowing through it without any airflow across it.
right, or at a drag strip.
Or a drag strip, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you'll see the benefit.
Right. Well, there it is. My mind is officially blown. Vincent, thank you so much for coming down to our backyard lab today. I'm shocked, but I've got some intercoolers to go and paint, so I got to go. And I'll see you later. Marty, I'll do your MX5 for you, mate.
Thanks, man. Can you put my hairdryer back as well?
Oh, sorry, that goes in your car, doesn't it?
Well,
So, there we go.
that would...
I'll just put it next to the curling irons and the scissors.
Thanks, man.